Hello. Hello, guys. Another members only today. Let me just check on YouTube and make sure it's members only. Hold on. Okay, yeah, it's good. All right. So, hope you guys are all doing well today. I just realized something when I was going through the Melissa Kohberger interview again with New York Times, and I was kind of like, oh, this is cool, right? I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but at the same time, it's pretty wild, right? Because about, I don't know, I guess a month ago or so, you might have remembered the post. And in fact, some of you may have joined for this reason that I put up about doing a Myers Briggs personality test and to find out what you might be if you've never done it before. That it's really cool because it basically lets you know um, what your personality is. It's pretty accurate if you're honest when you take the questions or you do the questions. And it can tell you a lot. You can learn a lot about yourself as a person, as a father, if you're a father, or as a brother, or as an employee, or what vocation you might like, or what kind of friend you might be. It's just like a lot of different things. And so I'm reading this article from Melissa Kohberger. And one second, let me pull it up. One second, guys. And I'm going to read it for you. One second. All right. Anyway. Hi, Christina. Welcome. How are you? So I'm glad you're here. So I'm just talking about how Bryan Kohberger uh, basically it was revealed in the latest New York Times article that his sister said he's been interested in the Myers Briggs. Hey, cool, cool. What's up, Christine Hurd? Yeah, so let me tell you the scoop real quick here, and then you can come back and watch later if you can't stay. But I just thought this was really interesting. You may have joined for this reason, but about a month ago, I posted that, I posted a quiz that you could take, and I told you if you answered it honestly, you would be able to figure out what your Myers-Briggs personality test is, and usually, or score is, or type is, and usually it's like uh, 4 letters like introvert, extrovert, rational, uh, emotional. I forget, there's a bunch of different ones, but essentially it's really helpful. It tells you what vocation you might like the best, how you might behave as a parent or a spouse, and what type of spouse you'd probably get best. It's just great. It's very helpful. It's not a cookie cutter, but it gives you a lot of insight. Anyway, it's called the Myers-Briggs, personality test. So check this out. And I read this the day it came out, but somehow I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So it's kind of cool when I saw this and I wanted to let you guys know. So hold on one second. So when they're talking to Melissa Kohberger about her brother, um, she says, let me find it. By the way, she sounds like just such a nice person. And her family too, the way they were talking about praying for Brian and the victims and that sort of thing. Just like a great family. All right, let's see here. Okay. She says, the family has tried to support Mr. Kohberger. Since his arrest, they have held regular calls with him, avoiding discussions about the details of the case. Ms. Kohberger said she has kept him posted about life back at home, and he sometimes talks about his latest interests in psychology. The Myers-Briggs personality assessment and the bicameral mind theory, in which the two sides of ancient human brains operate independently. But anyway, there you go, guys. The sister is telling us that most recently the same time that we're looking at the Myers-Briggs personality assessment that I brought it up about a month ago for you guys, that Bryan Kohberger also is, okay? What kind of coincidence is that? That is wild. Is that wild or what, guys? Okay. So, I'm gonna tell you the type of, personality I think Brian has according to Myers-Briggs. Now, we know that he had some type of mental health assessment, and, I guess there was some diagnosis of autism. That doesn't come into play with these personality types. It's harder to distinguish with those things, but I still think we're gonna be able to distinguish some things with him. Um, and then when you guys do yours, right? You'll be able to figure out which one you are. And yeah, isn't that wild? How wild is that? I was like, holy shit. What a coincidence, right? It's crazy. Crazy. Okay, so if we just look at basics Myers Briggs, and this isn't really how you're supposed to break it down, but it's an easy way to look at it for me because I've read the book so many times. But extroverted or introverted? Now, he's clearly an introvert. Is he a sensory person or an intuitive person? Meaning, hold on, I have to break that one down a little bit better. Oh, I'm sorry, observant or introspective? I'm not sure. That one, I'm going to guess if he wanted to be a police officer and everything, he was more observant. So IS. And then definitely more thinking than feeling and probing. So I'm going to say he's an ISTP. So what's an ISTP give us? Hold on. Now this is just me guessing. I don't know for sure. Usually I can guess all of my family members though. It's not hard once you start looking at this stuff over and over again. So it was ISTP. Okay. The crafter. Let's see what it says. And this is just look. This is just me saying I think this might be what his personality type is. I have no proof of anything of that. Okay, but let's just read what it says for the crafter. So crafters like tools. Most use a tool in some capacity, and they become expert with it. Even at an early age, they are drawn to tools as to a magnet. See, I don't know. That doesn't really sound like him, but I don't know. Yeah, crafters are more like people that are race car drivers or um, climbing up, skyscrapers and doing things like that. Although, let's see, wait a minute. I'm just looking some more here. Yeah, I don't know if I pegged that one right. I'd have to give it a little more thought. But regardless, it breaks it up into different types of personalities, and there are 16 there are 4 large categories, and then they break down into a total of 16. And obviously, it's not, we can't shove everybody into a bucket and say you're this personality type, but it does gives like sort of an overall gist. And I'll tell you, like I said, if you answer the questions honestly, you will get a pretty accurate read and you'll be shocked at what it says about you. And yeah, absolutely. Right. Good point. Good point. Hello, Frankie. Can you believe that, right? The whole thing. I remember I put this quiz up, okay? I put it up a while ago in the members only. It's on a post, all right? But I'm going to put it up again in the members only just so everybody has it, okay? And then I'm going to give you guys a week to anybody in the members that want to take it. I'm going to give you a week to do the test. And then actually, you know what? Let me think how I need to do this. What you need to do is probably either print out or download the test, okay? That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to see if I can get a PDF of it. And then and then we're going to take the test. I'm going to give you the questions online. You guys take the test and that's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to put it back up in the members only, the PDF of the test. Okay. You guys take it. I'll give you a week to take the test. And then I'm sorry, you're not going to take it without me though. So I keep screwing up. I'm going to give you a week to print it out or put it into your computer. So however you're going to take it. Because when I ask the question, you're going to have to answer right away. You're not going to be able to wait. So you want to have it available to you, whether you want to print it out or put it in some kind of like edit PDF file or whatever. And so, I'll put it up later today. And then next week we'll do this. I'll get the book out and we'll go through the questions and you guys will figure out what your type is. And then, I'll show you how to learn more about it. So how's that sound? I think that's good. It will, right? Yeah, I'll definitely put it up. But the reason, Frankie, I don't know if you heard this, the reason that I thought about, oh my gosh, I forgot we have to get back to this because I put this up about a month ago. And then I was reading the New York Times article again with Melissa Kohberger, and she says, Ms. Kohberger said she has kept him posted about life back at home, and he sometimes talks about his latest interests in psychology, the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, and the bicameral mind theory. What the fuck, bro? So this got posted just now. And I posted that test and was talking about Myers-Briggs. It was before Thanksgiving, honestly, that I was doing that. So it's been over a month, maybe 2 months, guys. I'd have to find it. But regardless, you guys know I've been talking about it. And it's just crazy because while we're talking about it, he's also talking about it with his sister, which is just a huge coincidence, right? That's why I decided to do the live because when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, I got to tell the fam. I got to tell the family because now people I think will be more interested in taking the test even and learning about it and stuff, right? It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. So, yeah, I'm going to print the test out. And just so you know, like the questions are real basic. I'm going to give you an example of a question right now just so you have an idea. And then I'm going to tell you how many questions there are. I forget, but it's not a lot. Hold on one second. Let me find this here. Okay, yeah. So there's 70 questions total. It's going to be 70 questions, and you get to answer A or B for each one. And then yeah, you just answer A or B for each one. Like, and here's an example of the first question. Hold on. We're not going to do it now. I'm just letting you know what it's like so you have an idea, okay? The first question is, 1, when the phone rings, do you A, hurry to get it first, or B, hope someone else will answer? Now, I do have to preface that they're probably going to need to update that one because this applies more to when like you had a phone in your house, you know. But regardless, it's similar to this question, which would be you have a cell phone or whatever. When it rings, do you roll your eyes like, oh my God, I'm getting bothered again? Or are you excited to see who it is? It's the same question, A or B. And then you just pick one. Now, sometimes you're going to be like, oh, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that, but you're forced to pick one. And what that means is you're forced to look internally and say, I might like to be this person, but realistically, what am I? Like everybody wants to be the person that's excited to get on the phone, maybe, but maybe they're not, right? So like just realistically, when you look at your day-to-day life, like the past 5 times the phone rang, what was your response? And that's who you really are. And sometimes we don't like to look at who we really are, but it's helpful in this context. And when we're done going through these questions and you guys write your A and B down, okay, and you're able to figure out your personality type, that is for you to know and keep to yourself unless you want to share. Okay. That's like something you get to choose. I'm not going to encourage people to share. I'm going to encourage people to learn about the personality type. And if they want to share, then they should share, because these things can be quite personal to people, especially if you're being honest with yourself. So I really hope you guys are looking forward to taking the test and you're ready to look at these questions. So what are you guys talking about now is I know, me too. That's me. Yes, doll. I'll figure out when a good time is to do it. You know what I'll do? I'll put a poll up for members and I'll put like time slots and days and see like what the best time is because I want everybody to be able to be there and participate. You know what I mean? So is there some presser getting ready to happening? Right? Isn't that wild? In other news, oh, he withdrew. Really? Thanks for sharing that. That's wild. Huh. When he took that case, honestly, I was like, dude, you're so like in deep with Karen Reed and her case. I don't know how the fuck you're going to concentrate on that case. That's my personal opinion about why he dropped it. I personally think he dropped it because this is my psychic, guys. Okay, you guys ready for my psychic? Here's my psychic. I think um I'm sorry it went so fast. I'm sorry, doll. It's okay. It'll be here for you later, Christina. So this is my psychic. I'll tell you really quick. I think Alan Jackson, no matter what he tells the public, I believe he dropped that case because he is having trouble at home with his wife and his marriage and this Karen Reed shit. I'm telling you, that's why I think he dropped it. When I saw him pick that up, I was surprised. I was like, man, you got too much on your plate right now. And my psychic's telling me you got shit going on at home that's a problem because of you and Karen Reed's closeness. That's my psychic. That's my prediction. We'll see what happens. So, guys. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that Mel Koberger said because, you know, just really the way she relayed her brother, just like very, very sweet. Yeah, I'm not gonna allege. Okay, I don't want to allege that him and Karen are having an affair. I'm not alleging that. But I am saying that I think his wife, regardless of if he and Karen are having an affair, they're very close. They become very close professionally, even if it's professionally. And just think about this, right? I'm just being a human here. It's not even really psychic. It's just like being a human and have perception, right? I don't care how solid your marriage is. Okay. I do not care how solid your marriage is. If you are on the other coast spending the nights in a hotel room, um, and you're working on something, that's fine. I get it. Man's got to work, whatever. But like she's in the same hotel room, the halls are there. Okay, fine. Everybody's keeping it cool. But then I saw that one picture. I'm not even talking about the one that people thought was cropped or whatever. I'm talking about the one where they were at a bar and the way that they were sitting and it was their legs were crossed toward each other and it was late and they're sitting there with their drinks and I'm like, oh hell no. If Alan Jackson was my husband, no bitch, you're not doing that. Okay, you and your colleagues can do that with Karen, but not just you and Karen. If you and Karen are having a late night drink at the bar before you go back to your hotel rooms that you're both staying in, fuck no, we're gonna have some problems, boo boo. So that's my opinion on that shit. So yeah, I'm just telling you, I think there's trouble brewing over there. And you know, that's my opinion. I think because if when you're in a marriage, now look, everybody has their own rules in their marriage. And that's the other piece that I have to be careful of because some people have open marriages. Some people don't give a flying fuck. She might just be like, do whatever you want, hun. Just make sure I got my money in my bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like there are marriages like that, right? But I don't think that's the case with him and his wife because she is also a practicing attorney. She is a also very bright, talented, motivated woman. So I don't picture her as being like the trophy wife type thing. No, she's an equal in that marriage. So I don't believe she's gonna put up with any shit. unless there's still a third. There's always a possibility, right? These are the kind of things I think of. Is he a beard? Maybe she's, homosexual and he's a beard or whatever. But I don't think that's the case. The most likely scenario here is trouble with his wife, and that's why he had to drop that case. And also Karen Reed. Karen Reed is very demanding, okay? And that's okay. People have a right to be demanding. I wish I could be demanding, but I'm not. I'm the opposite of demanding, okay? I'm like the opposite, all right? People are demanding get shit done, okay? She's very demanding. We've seen that. She's probably the kind of person that sends her soup back if it's too cold, or I don't know, if there's something in her plate that she didn't order, she probably sends it back. That's my guess. And that's good. I wish I could be that person, but I'm just not that person most of the time. I'm just like, it's fine. I'll deal with it. What I mean by that though is she's going to be calling Alan up a lot about all kinds of shit. And the other thing that's interesting about it is, let's say like let's say she calls him up. Now, he's not getting paid. Like here there's been a big falling out too in that group. Like Alan um is not really talking to David Yannetti, who's also not really talking to that other guy who was awesome. Oh, God, I'm blanking on his name. The genius, nerdy guy. Um, they're not talking to each other. There's been some kind of falling out in the Reed camp in terms of her attorneys. She's still with Alan Jackson, though. So it's just kind of interesting. And I just wonder what other people might know what's going on there. But it's really none of my business. That's why I'm doing it on members only. This kind of petty talk I'd like to stay out of. But you guys, it's just kind of interesting. That's what I'm thinking of. So just wanted to bring that up. Uh, and one second. I don't even know why I got on that. So let's see here. Let's see. I'm thinking about going to there's like I wouldn't call it a thrift store. They call it the Antique Emporium in my town, but you can go in there and they've got the coolest things in there, like so much cool shit. And I think I'm going to go in there this week sometime. I don't know if you guys would like to go in and look around at this place with me. There's so many cool things in there. I think I'll just do a members only live when I go in there. And if you guys want to look, you can look. Um, all right, let's see here. HOT. Okay, so this was the other thing. Like she just sounds like such a nice person. Miss Kohberger said they were all worried that he was on a path to an early death, as ultimately happened with one of his friends. And when he stole her phone and sold it at the mall, she said her parents alerted the police. And this is the thing, okay? There's so many signals here for us to look at in terms of what's going on. If you think about it, okay? Think about this. This is something we've known from the beginning. We've known from the beginning that Bryan Kohberger's father turned him over to the police because he stole his sister's phone. And yet, there are people out here that actually think his parents were hiding the fact that he committed a quadruple murder. It doesn't compute, guys. Like, let's use our brains. Would your parents at that age have turned you in for stealing a sibling's phone? Be honest. Now, some people say yes, but some people say no. And there are parents that are strict like that. And there are parents that do the right thing. They might have asked their priest and he might have said, you have to do it. Whatever it is, they did it. Okay. They had the strength to do it, despite the fact that it was probably hard for them. So you think this religious, God-fearing family is going to let their son like hang out at home while they're like, yeah, we got to help you figure out how to hide this quadruple murder? It's not a shot in hell. It's not going to happen unless we're living in a fake world, right? Unless we're living in a fake world. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not saying this was, I'm just saying, think about this logically. It's almost like it is an operation to see what we will fall for. What will we fall for? How gullible at this point is the population at large. Okay. Are they gullible enough to just believe Bryan Kohberger and the mainstream media narrative? And I would say, you know what else I want to do? I want to do a poll on the street and just even ask people, do you think he's guilty and why? And some people, I want to see how many people even know who the fuck he is. Be interesting to know, right? I have any true crime friends around here. We could do that, but I don't know anybody in my area that would do it with me. I could do it by myself, but it's more fun to do it with people. But anyway, what I'm trying to say this is that's one thing. Okay. They give us this signal, this information, this piece of information, and we all remember it. It's a salient piece of information. It's stuck out. We all remember that story because it is odd. Because I don't think my parents would do that. They might punish me, but I'll tell you, my parents are not quick to call police, okay? And neither am I, all right? And most people I know are not quick to call the police, especially on a family member, because we all know how shit can go south real fast. I would never call the police. I just thought about this when my parents said, no, they never would fucking call police because it's family business and we're going to deal with it within the family. And that's how shit operates in my house. Now, there's sometimes you're going to have to call the police. Like if someone breaks into your home and you kill them, you're going to probably have to call the police for that, right? I'm just joking, guys. Seriously, though. Sometimes you got to call the cops. But at the end of the day, I'm not calling the fucking cops on any of my family members if I can deal with that shit within the family. Okay? Just a fact. That's why it was so weird. Okay? And everybody remembered it. And then later on, they tell us another piece of information. And they want to know who's sharp enough to remember that other piece of information. Who remembers that? Right? And we all do, right? And then they tell us, yeah, Bryan Kohberger's dad, like we hear all kinds of stories. Wasn't somebody trying to say he was living there with him? Then, he came out there to help him because he knew his son fucked up. Like all these innuendos. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's Howard Bloom guessing based on people he's talked to. Okay. It's people guessing. But what you can go by is past behavior because past behavior is the best predictor for future behavior. And this isn't a perfect analogy, but you could say that most likely somebody's parents whose family is going to turn them over for stealing their own sibling's phone are going to be a lot more likely to turn in their kid if they suspect he committed a quadruple murder. It's just a fucking fact. And it's the most logical conclusion you can make. So let's just scratch that off for anybody who wants to talk about how his parents knew or were involved or his sisters. That was the other one the mainstream media kept giving us forever. One of his sisters suspected and gave a tip. Fuck you, mainstream media, because it never happened and we never believed it. So that was good, right, guys? And there's so many other little points like this throughout. Exactly. They didn't have cells back then. Mm, I like the statement, but I don't know if it's true. What year was it? If he was 17. I mean, you might be right, but I'd have to do the math. Exactly, Frankie. That's what I'm saying. Like, I guess it also depends on your culture, where you grew up, how your family feels about police. And I have nothing against police. Please don't get it twisted. But I only like the police officers that are like good police officers. And if we're being honest, there's a lot of them out there that aren't because they're just not capable of like empathy. They're not very bright. They have a weapon at their side and then they have this like complex. And why shouldn't they? They're 19 or 20 and they've just been handed a fucking weapon and all that power. It's a lot of power to wield. Yeah, I don't generally trust cops. um, for myself or anyone. I'm very skeptical, and that's just based on things I've seen and things that have happened to my family and other people's families. And that's it. And I think a lot of Americans feel more and more like that. I know in the Black culture and other cultures within our country, they felt like that for a long time. My whole family, though, honestly, where I grew up and everything, we've always felt that way too. So I just think that my feeling about authority. I don't think anybody should have authority over another person, period. So cops are like, to me, like, why do we have cops? Like, I get that you need to be able to protect other people. Our society's dangerous. Trust me, if I need a cop, I love a cop when they come in. Okay. I'm just saying, like, that whole thing, the way people get into it, like, I think they should be, I think there should be, just like in medical school, or like if you're a doctor or a PA or a teacher or a nurse, you have to do yearly, like, continuing education, and there's certain certifications you have to hold. Like, I think they should have to hold a certification for de-escalation. Like, they should have to be able to demonstrate how to de-escalate something. They should not be able to be easily triggered emotionally. Like, those kind of people are not good to be cops, period. And that's usually a lot of young men. They get, because they're not yet grounded as men, probably till they're about 25, 26. So from like 18 to 26, you're a soldier, you're a cop, you're dealing with somebody who's emotionally immature, is very emotionally triggered. And if they have any kind of if they have any kind of biases that they're not aware of, or they're just outright biased or prejudiced or racist, that's a dangerous fucking situation. And then you reward them for giving tickets. That's not what cops are supposed to be here for. You're not supposed to be giving tickets to people. You're supposed to be policing the neighborhood to keep people safe. The neighborhood cops are a much better way to do this, but it never helps, because when you do the neighborhood policing, you're not on the beat giving tickets, and so you get in trouble. It's really fucked up. The way the system is designed is bad, and then the cop unions protect the bad cops, and it goes on and on. It goes on and fucking on. The 70s and 80s. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to say that Brian didn't have a cell phone back then. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'm 55, doll, so I hear you. I'm Gen X. I'm Gen X. So, all right, I decided I'm gonna share a personal story with you guys today. Just because I thought, I don't know, you guys might think it was interesting or funny or something, but I don't know why I just thought about this. Uh, so when my daughter was in, she was in, let me think, she was in seventh grade. No, sixth grade, sixth or seventh grade. Anyway, she was in middle school, and I would pick her up from school, and I pick her up, and she comes out to the car, and she bursts into tears as soon as she sits down. And anybody who has kids, or they're going through middle school, or even myself, I remember middle school. It's like going into a fucking battleground. You have to decide where you're going to meet your friends before you walk in. I mean, it's rough in middle school. So I said, "What's going on?" She tells me this. She was in math class, and in math class, they have like these four separate tables. And so there's like five kids to a table or whatever, and they're doing a project. And the teacher's teaching, and this boy across from her happens to be very popular, is calling her names. He's calling her slut. Oh, yes. Yes, that's what he called her. He called my sixth grade daughter a slut. He called her a bitch. Then he had an empty water bottle. Oh, I'm starting to get mad just thinking about this, but you'll see what happened to this motherfucker. Just keep listening. So then he had an empty water bottle, and he decided to throw it, and it bounced off of her head. Now, when you're a kid, how fucking stupid you feel when somebody does that to you. Like, it's horrific. As an adult, somebody did that to me on purpose. If you're not my friend, you better watch out, because you're gonna get fucked up, all right? But like, as a friend or whatever, it's a joke. But like, that's mortifying. On top of the fact that he's calling her all these names, and my baby girl hasn't even kissed a boy yet. So I don't know who you're talking to, but anyway. So my daughter did what I raised her to do. Okay. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on, guys. Hold on, hold on. All right, sorry about that. So the way that I handled it with my daughter in middle school was basically like, when you have a problem at school, this was my kids from actually it wasn't even middle school, from elementary school. This is how I handled it. Because see, when I was growing up, my mother always picked up for me because my mother likes to fight. When I was 15, my mother almost got into a fight in my guidance office because I didn't want to fight this girl. Because I knew once I fought someone, I was going to fucking hurt them. I did not want to. So I tried to contain it, because my anger is, it was bad when I was young and I'm strong. I was really strong. I was an athlete and everything. So anyway, but my mother, she can't contain herself. She will fuck you up if you start talking trash. To this day, I'm still afraid of my mother. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is she didn't let me fight my own battles. And so I know how to do it, but I wasn't as graceful as I'd like to be. And I wasn't able to, so I had to learn a little bit older. Okay. But my kids, I want to make sure, no, you can do it yourself if you feel capable. If you try and you fail, come get mama. Or if you don't want to try because it's too daunting, you're still a child, mama will come and help you. Okay. So my kids learned that from a very young age, and I was very proud of them because they started to stick up for themselves with all kinds of stuff in 6th and 7th grade. So this little fucking punk is calling my daughter these names, throws a bottle on her head, and these teachers these days are not paying attention. Let me just tell you, because back in my day, that kid would have been sent to the principal's office immediately. Okay. But no, no, that shit don't work now. These teachers, I don't know if their head is up their ass, if they're afraid of calling these kids out. I don't know, and I don't give a fuck. Okay. So my daughter did the right thing though. She went up and she said to the teacher, "Can I move my seat?" Very mature. Didn't even rat this kid out. Just asked to move her seat. And the teacher said, "No." And she said, "Well, I'd really like to because so and so is calling me bad names. And he just hit me on the head with a bottle." And he said, "What kind of bad names?" And she didn't want to say them because they're bad words. And he kept asking her. And so she said them. Do you know how angry I was getting when she was telling me this story in the car? I mean, I was like, where does this little fucking kid live? And where does the fucking teacher live? Because I'm ready to turn the fucking school upside down, bitch. Like, and she was like, stop. Like, she was getting nervous because the kid is very popular. Okay. And she was worried what I was going to do because she knows I pop the fuck off with stuff like this. So I calmed myself down because I wanted to hear all of it. So I relaxed and I said, "Okay, okay, okay, don't worry, honey. Don't worry. Mama will calm down." So she starts telling me the story and she says, when she said that to the teacher, "Do you know what this motherfucker did?" I shit you not. He said, "Well, then you can go out in the hallway and stand in the hallway for the rest of the class." Yeah. Yeah. He fucking had my daughter, who had just been called a slut and a bitch and hit on the head with a plastic bottle, stand in the hallway for the rest of the class because she didn't want to sit with those boys. I'm sorry. Are we in a fucking are we in like Iran right now? Are we in some other fucking world where like men just do this and little girls just no, 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 no. We don't live in that fucking world. I'm gonna tell you right now. Not when I'm around. So my daughter told me this. I said, "Okay." I was very calm. Of course, I asked, "What's his name?" Gives me his name. I fucking start going in on this kid, doing a deep dive. Who are his parents? Where does he live? All this shit, right? I am pissed. Now, I am one to usually, I've done this many times. If I can deal with the parent instead of the school, I'm going to do that. I'd much rather deal with the parent, parent to parent. And I've done it many times, like when another kid was calling one of my daughters a name, who it was his friend. But I called the parent up and said, "Hey, your son's calling my daughter a bitch and a slut." And like, they're in 5th grade. So like, I don't know what the mother was mortified. The kid got, punished. It was a big deal. And she was glad I called. Right. But in this situation, okay, this is what unfolded. As I'm looking into this kid and getting more and more angry, I see a post that he puts on his Instagram. It's how dumb people are, I swear to God. He puts on his Instagram, "My hair," I don't know how he worded it. He was trying to sound like he was like a rapper or something, like he had that lingo, but he's like in suburbia white boy land. So like you're not. You're just not. But anyway, go ahead. He says, "Yo, I got this like messed up fade, and I think I'm just gonna have to come in and like shoot up the whole school or something like that. But yes, he said shoot up the whole school at the end of it. Okay. And when I saw that, first of all, I wasn't worried that he was going to shoot up the whole school because the little kid's a motherfucking punk. However, I couldn't exclude it. I don't know if his parents have guns in the house, whatever. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Now, he had written that post probably 3 months before, but it doesn't matter. Okay. It was a socially, it was on, it was there. And some of these other people in the school, some of the other popular girls had gone ahead and like said, yeah, and they were egging him on. All right. So obviously, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Just fucking great. Right. So what I do is the next morning, I call the school and I say, I need to talk to you about something. I call him as soon as I wake up in the morning. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know, right? You're gonna lose it, right? I know, Frankie. Frankie, girlfriend, I'm telling you, girl, you're just like me. You got it just like me. I was going to fucking kill somebody. Okay. Now let me explain. After I saw this shit about the kid writing the bullshit about shooting up the school, oh, I was gonna tell the principal that, but let me tell you something. I was still gonna let them know about my daughter, and I told them that first. Yes, I did. Yes, I motherfucking did. Okay. So I call up and for some reason, they were all in some kind of meeting that morning and they gave me the dipshit vice principal, who I swear was high on Xanax at the time or something. But I go in there, I sit down and I say, well, first of all, this is how I think. I always think ahead. I did not want those kids to know that Lana and that those other kids that were being nasty to that one girl who's really popular, I did not want them to know that I was the one ratting them out because I knew that Lana and them would take it out on my kid. That was the one bitch I couldn't stand. Okay. So I knew that they would take it out on my daughter. And I didn't want that to happen. So as soon as when I called the school, I said, I'm going to come up there, but I don't want to be seen. I want to be snuck in the back or whatever. I said, I don't want anybody to see me coming in here. Oh, yeah, I did. So I went in with the principal and I said, look, I'm going to tell you something right now. I said, what this kid did to my daughter or whatever. And I told her the whole story and she was fucking mortified. Okay. Like she was mortified. And she was just like, oh my God, like blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. And she goes, well, he's a new teacher. I said, I don't care if he's a new teacher. Like it's not acceptable. A new teacher or not. My kids would know better than that. Ask a responsible person who has a half a brain. They know better than to what he did, you know? So I was like, I go, and then I'm going to show you this. And then I pulled it out and I showed her. Well, she flipped the fuck out. And I didn't draw it out long. I mean, I was there immediately when they opened up. I went through my daughter's shit. I wanted to make sure that shit was heard because I knew once I talked about the other thing that it was going to get lost, and I wanted retribution for that shit. Okay, so I got that out first. Then I did that. Then I showed her the other stuff, and I said she called the cops. They pulled this kid out of his fucking class. They fucking dumped his. It was fucking amazing. They emptied his fucking locker. They fucking cuffed him. I mean everything. Okay, the whole school knew about it. All right, and when the cops came, I told them the same thing. I gave them screenshots, but I made sure my name wasn't on there. And I said, you cannot let anybody know that I'm the one that did this. I said, because then my daughter will get bullied by these people because it's the popular crowd. So they said, okay. And then I told my daughters, both my daughters know this. I always tell them like mafia rules, mob rules, like you keep your fucking mouth shut. That's what I always tell them. Since a little kid, I didn't say it like that, but I tell them, keep your mouth shut. I said, because the biggest life lesson you're going to have is most people can't. Okay. Most people simply cannot fucking keep a secret. I don't give a fuck if it's your best friend. Most people don't know how to keep their fucking mouths shut. Okay. If you know what I'm saying, give me a 1 in the chat. Okay. They just don't know how to shut the fuck up. And you think you can trust someone. You cannot. You cannot. Okay. There are a few people I trust, but what's more important to me is to be trustworthy. I want to be seen as trustworthy because I know there are some things that people have to say and they want to tell other people, but they don't want other people to share it. And I want to be that trustworthy person. And so I taught my kids that. I taught my kids how valuable that is. And they know that. And their friends know that. Right. So anyway, I said to both my kids, I said, I don't care what you hear. I don't care what happens. You don't know nothing. Your mama said nothing. You said nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Right. Because they were not going to punish him over what he did to her in that moment. But I was more pissed at the teacher. Now, the kid I was pissed at, don't get me wrong, and that was going to be dealt with. But it was a very precarious situation because I didn't want him to connect anything. Okay. So they handled it the right way and they said it was unrelated that I had called that day, when she got home. They handled it the right way. It all worked out. And I'll tell you what, my daughter was hilarious. She would come home for weeks after that. And because the kid ended up getting suspended, by the way, for 2 weeks. And it was a big fucking deal. And like, it's just stupid. Now, if he had done that like a month or two later, he would have been sent to prison or jail because a month or two later, the same thing happened in the same state that I live in at that time, and the kid went to jail. Okay, they arrested him and he was in jail, and then they put him on trial. So this kid got away pretty fucking easy with 2 weeks of whatever. But then they had to check his parents' home and make blah 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 blah, right? But the best part is nobody ever figured out it was my daughter. To this day, okay, unless somebody in this chat knows that story, nobody has figured out that it was me and my daughter that told on him. And I don't care at this point, but back then, because my kids know how to keep their mouth shut. My daughter would hear people in the cafeteria even coming up to her and be like, oh my God, did you hear so and so? And they would hear lies about other people that ratted this kid out, and my daughter would be like, oh my God, meanwhile knowing the whole story. And that's how she learned at a very young age how people tell stories and lie. And it was a really valuable lesson for her, because instead of saying, no, no, my mom did this, because that's what a lot of people would do. They don't have the fucking control to shut their fucking mouth. She did. And she watched and she realized. And she also valued the fact that she kept her mouth shut, because if she opened it, she knew what those kids would do to her. And I knew too. And so it was really good. It worked out really good in the end. So that's my story. And right there you go. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, and then right. Oh, that's the other part. Okay. Then the teacher calls me up. Okay. This fucking teacher calls me up and I hadn't answered. So they leave this message. I should have saved that damn message. When I tell you that message went on for like, I'm not even kidding. I think it went on for like for full 2 minutes. Just straight on, like run on sentence, just constantly apologizing, blah, 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 right? And I call him up and he starts apologizing. I said, listen, I don't want to hear your apologies. I said, I already heard it. I said, you should know better. I said, you should know better on how to treat kids. I said, and women in general. I said, you took the bully and rewarded him, and you took the victim and you made her feel worse. I said, my daughter is more mature than you are. She came up to you. I mean, I gave it to him. I mean, I really fucking gave it to him. I was pissed. I'm still angry about it, but I let that shit go because I deal with it. I've learned to deal with it. I don't lose my temper anymore. Like when I was younger, I'd lose my temper, cursing and yelling. That shit doesn't get you anywhere. I learned I'm that angry. I want to flip over a house. I got to calm the fuck down. Okay. I got to calm the fuck down. Give me 24 hours. Now, in that case, I couldn't do it in 24 hours. I had to wait maybe I don't know. I slept on it and then I was able to talk. But if my voice is shaking or my hand is shaking, I do not need to address people in that moment because I cannot control myself. And I know that. I don't want to hit somebody. I don't want to say stupid shit that I'm going to regret. I don't like to do that. I'm old enough to know better. I should be able to control myself, right? So I always control myself and I devise a plan. And my plans pretty much always work out. If you're in the right, you're in the right. You just have to make sure you deal with it in the right way. The only way you mess up is when you deal with it in the wrong way, meaning you took an eye I'm going to take an eye. No, I don't need to take an eye. You can keep both your fucking eyes. You took one of mine. Keep both your fucking eyes. I want you to have both your fucking eyes. Okay? I want you to have them because you'll get a different type of karma from some other way. Like maybe the things you have to see with both your eyes wide open are going to be harder for you than if I took out one of your eyes. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like an eye for an eye is not a good idea. It doesn't mean you don't settle it. You can do it in different ways, but just blindly, you know, in a rage filled moment doing shit, it's just not a good idea. I don't think it is. At least it's never worked out well for me. Holy shit, can these people stop? I thought that I put it on mute, but I guess I didn't. This was thank you, Christina. This was let me think about this. My God, I wish this would stop. Hold on. Why is my This is really annoying. Hold on, sorry. This sound is making me crazy. Especially when I put it on do not disturb. It shouldn't be doing that. It's really annoying. Anyway, yeah, this was probably about 10 years ago, maybe. Yeah, about 10 years ago. 2016-ish, 2015-ish, something like that. Yeah. I got so many stories. I love telling them too. I got so many crazy stories, man. But I'm not gonna overload you with them. I figured you guys might enjoy that one, especially if you have kids or you know anybody with kids and all that stuff. It's like, hold on for a second. Go up to and ask you where you ask. Yes. Oh, look. Okay, good. Sorry. My other daughter just got a job, so I'm excited. Uh, yes, she does. It's a big lesson. You know what I mean? Because they know now too, like even with their friends, their friends appreciate it. You know, it's not easy for boys and girls. Even every year, we know, guys. Anybody who went through middle school, man, that was a traumatic experience, all right? I don't care if you were popular or not middle school, or like sports popular or pretty popular or whatever. It's traumatic, you know. I was mostly like sports popular in middle school, and but I wasn't a bully and I wasn't a bitch. Like I talked to everybody, you know what I mean? But there were people that didn't, like the sports people that were like, we're into sports and they smoke pot, so we can't talk to them. Or we're into sports and they, have long hair, so we can't talk to them. Like I never ruled like that. I always talked to everybody. Um, but it was still like really tough. And honestly, I don't think it's something that we have to put kids through. I think it's fucking traumatic. And I was thinking about, with homeschooling and stuff. Like if I always wanted to homeschool, but my perspective hadn't changed at that point. If, I have just completely different views now and I'm willing to stand on them. But I didn't have that sense back then. So it's fine. Things worked out the way they were supposed to. But I would highly encourage people to homeschool their kids now. I think if your kid can read and write, they can teach themselves and learn anything. And in this day and age, you can find shit out on the computer. There are books. You can teach yourself everything. And the school is really just teaching them to obey rules, in my opinion. It really is. And teaching them how to memorize shit. And we all know that memorization is not knowledge. Memorization does not help you understand anything. Memorization. Now, one thing I think you have to memorize, there's a couple things. You got to memorize the multiplication tables, okay? And you got to memorize the alphabet, right? But other than that, like most shit, like you need to learn how to do it, And but I think a lot of things get memorized over time because you're using it. So it's just the way they teach us is wrong. We're not supposed to learn by memorizing. And that's all we did in school. Think about it. Every fucking thing was memorizing. Even in math, memorize a formula, right? Not try to develop a new fucking postulate or theorem in math. We could do that. They just didn't give us that opportunity. They made us feel like we were dumb in math. I loved fucking math in college once realized I could, like, get a tutor. And, yeah, I was real dumb at it at first because they didn't teach me in high school. But in fucking college, I took Calc 1 and Calc 2, and I got A's, but I spent all my time in the math lab. But now that I understand math, like, holy shit, what a difference. And do you know, I used to say, like, I sucked at math. And that's why, like, when my kids say that, or anybody's kids say they suck at math, I'm like, you don't suck at math. The people who teach you suck at math. There's a difference. Okay. There's a fucking difference. The people who are teaching you math suck. That's why you don't understand math. If they were good, you would understand math. They're just not. They suck. That's the value of a good teacher. That's awesome. That's really so good. And honestly, I read something recently about it. One of the things they always talk about with homeschooling, which, by the way, there's lots of easy ways to solve the problem, but they like to bash it, especially the normies who feel like you have to stay in the system or whatever. Okay. They say, oh, kids that are homeschooled, like, they don't get socialization with other kids. And I say, who gives a fuck? Okay. Who decided that kids are supposed to socialize with other kids and that's how they get along? Now, don't get me wrong. Kids do need to socialize with other kids in terms of learning how to share and, like, sort of operate in a team and stuff. But, like, I don't think that that's something they can't figure out with adults either. Like, why can't they figure out with an adult that they can? Think about it. I'm just challenging this hypothesis. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Let me know what you think or think about it. But, like, kids are mean to each other. They're ruthless, right? And maybe there's a certain value in surviving that. I don't know. But me personally, it was a jungle in middle school, especially. It scared the fuck out of me when I had to get on the bus in elementary school. Traumatic. Why put kids through that? No, you can not send. There are other people that homeschool, and then you can get together and go on a field trip, and that's how they socialize. But they don't have to socialize with other kids every day and have some kind of pecking order and decide who's going to shit on who or bully who. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And then, like I said, you're not learning anything there because do you know, I read a statistic recently, something like 40 fucking percent of new high school graduates nationwide are illiterate. That's really bad. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, honestly. I know, exactly. That's what I'm saying, Christina. Exactly. I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. Like, I look at both sides. I'll look at both sides, but I already know what I would do if it was me and my kid at this point. And that's the thing. And I get it that, like, and even at that time, you're gonna have people say, I can't afford it, right? And honestly, this is one of the reasons why I got divorced because I wanted to stay home once we had two, and he agreed to it. But once I had the second, after what is it, 6 or 8 weeks when you're okay to get back to work, he's pushing me to go back to work. Oh, we can't afford this house if blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Let's go into a smaller house. I don't give a fuck. I would have gone into a tiny house. I wanted to stay at home, but he didn't want to. And, it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying, like, that's a thing. That's a real thing, you know? And I think kids, they need their mom at home. They really do. I'm just being honest. And I just, I think it's dangerous to send them to school now. I do. Whether it's false flag shootings or real shootings and just real fucking crime is up and it's real scary. People are acting really weird. They're killing their kids. People are driving miles to kill their sibling. I mean, it's fucking crazy. Teachers are assaulting kids in some cases in some of these schools. I mean, it's not good. So anyway, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to bring up while I was here. So nice having you guys here. That's good that you're home anyway, though. Exactly. I agree. I mean, I don't know. You guys, if you're Gen X, you know. I mean, my mom and dad didn't know where the fuck I was all day in the summertime. Let's be honest. My parents would go to work, in the summer at 8, and me and my friend were out all day. And as I got older, instead of hanging out, being a tomboy in the neighborhood, riding my not my motorcycle, but it was a fake motorcycle bike, you know what I mean, and trying to be a cool guy, but I wasn't ever fitting in because I was a girl. That's okay. But then when I got out of that phase, like 12, me and my friend were walking everywhere, walking up to the supermarket over here, going to see that friend, getting into trouble. 12 years old up to 15. There's some That's some time if you're a girl like me to get in a lot of trouble. And I sure did. Let me tell you. I turned out okay. Some shit went down. I have more stories. I'll share them eventually in with my members here. But just to give you an idea though, and that's okay. That was the culture at the time. That's the way the world worked. I don't think the world's going to continue to work that way. That's just my opinion. I just don't think it's going to continue to work that way. We already know it doesn't work the way where kids can just go out all day and their parents don't know where they are. We already know that shit doesn't work. Now, don't get me wrong. There was always like a check in time. Like, my mom would be like, if you're going, I would tell them, right? So I did tell I'm going here that day, but really that's not where I was. I was doing all kinds of shit. She couldn't tell because I didn't have a tracker phone on me or anything at the time. That was real freedom. Let me tell you something. That's true fucking freedom. Being a kid with no cell phone, okay, in like 1982, walking out the door with your friend. Oh yeah, on a hot summer day, that's fucking freedom. Let me tell you something. Anything could happen in that moment, and a lot of shit sure did. A lot of shit sure did. My friend, one of my besties, you guys know, Damien and Brian, they Damien's taking care of his grandfather and he gifted him his like Fiero from I don't know if it's 1979 or 1980. Anyway, this Fiero has over 200,000 miles on it. It's a stick shift, which I happen to know how to drive. And I was like, holy shit, right? So I was teaching him how to drive the stick shift last night. And I was saying to him, this car right here, I would never get rid of because he can't be traced in that car. There's no GPS tracker in that car. There's no transponder in the car. Like that car is like that's a apocalyptic type car. Like that's like your bug out vehicle. Like put your bug out bag in that car. You might need to get four-wheel drive on it. Oh my god. But seriously, those kind of cars, oh man, those are like golden. I had so much fun driving it too. It was wild. I think it needs a new engine though. It took us like, I'm not kidding, like 5 minutes to get to 60. Hold on for 1 second. All right. Whoops. Okay, hold on, guys. You can come with me. Hopefully this won't crash out. I have to go unlock the door here. Hopefully you can still hear me. If you lose me, I'll be right back. All right, I'll have to replace that soon. I'll be down in a second. I'm just getting ready to get off. Okay, family. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging with me. And like I said, as promised, I will post in the members only a PDF giving instructions. I'll also put up a survey for when the best time is to do the test. And then I have a few other things I'm going to be putting out. But either way, thanks so much for being here and really, truly appreciate each and every one of you. And I mean that. Hope you have a great day. That's what's up.